The street didn't appear on any map, but people in the city spoke about it in the way they talk about bad dreams. Quietly, reluctantly, as if saying too much might make it real. They said it showed up when you were alone, when your phone battery slipped into that last desperate percentage, when the familiar routes twisted just enough to lead you somewhere else. I never believed any of it. Cities are full of strange corners, I told myself. Every place has its ugly, forgotten edges. That's all it was. I was wrong. It started after I left a late shift, the kind that drains you so thoroughly you stop noticing the world around you. The tram had already stopped running, so I decided to walk. I'd done it before. The city at night usually felt different, but not dangerous. Quieter, yes, but still alive in a comforting way. That night, though, something was off. The air felt thick, like it had weight, pressing down on my shoulders. Even the distant sounds, cars, voices, the hum of nightlife, seemed muffled, like I was hearing them through a wall. I checked my phone. 3%. I swore under my breath and quickened my pace. I knew the route well enough. Straight down, 2 turns, then I'd be back somewhere familiar. But after the first turn, the streetlights began to flicker, not in a steady, predictable pattern, but erratically like failing heartbeats. Shadows stretched and snapped back with each pulse of light, making the buildings seem like they were shifting, breathing. I should have turned back then, but when I did, the street behind me didn't look right. It was too long, too narrow, and the lights behind me were dimmer than they should have been. The path I had just walked felt distant, like it had already slipped out of reach. That's when I realized I couldn't hear anything anymore. No cars, no voices, not even the faint buzz of electricity from the streetlights. Just my own breathing, loud and uneven, and the echo of my footsteps against the pavement. Each step sounded delayed, like it was coming from somewhere else, half a second too late. I kept walking. It felt like the only option. The buildings on either side grew taller, their windows dark and empty, like rows of blind eyes. Some of them looked wrong, too, angles slightly off, doors too narrow or too tall, as if they weren't built for people at all. I tried not to stare. I tried to focus on the end of the street. But there was no end. That's when I saw it. A figure stood under a flickering street lamp far ahead, perfectly still. At first, I felt a strange sense of relief. Another person. Someone who might know where we were, or at least confirm that I wasn't alone in whatever this was. I raised my hand slightly, about to call out, but something stopped me. It wasn't the darkness, it wasn't the silence, it was the way it stood. Too still. No shifting of weight, no subtle movements people make without thinking. It looked placed there, like an object rather than a person. The light above it buzzed faintly, casting uneven shadows that seemed to cling to its shape. I hesitated, then called out anyway, "Hey!" The sound felt wrong the moment it left my mouth. It didn't travel properly. It just faded, swallowed almost immediately, as if the air itself refused to carry it. The figure didn't respond. I took a step closer, then another. With each step, something in my chest tightened. The proportions of the figure began to resolve, and they didn't make sense. Its arms hung too low, nearly brushing the ground. Its torso was elongated, stretched in a way that made my eyes ache to look at it. And its head was tilted at an angle no human could hold comfortably, as if it were listening to something deep beneath the pavement. The light flickered harder as I approached, stuttering rapidly. In those brief flashes, I caught glimpses of its face, or what should have been a face. There were no eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, pale surface that seemed to ripple slightly, like skin pulled too tight over something moving underneath. I stopped. Every instinct screamed at me to run. The figure moved. Not with a step, not with any motion I could recognize. It unfolded. Its limbs extended slowly, joints bending in unnatural directions with a wet, creaking sound. It grew taller, impossibly tall, until its head nearly touched the flickering lamp. The buzzing grew louder, rising into a high, unbearable pitch that made my ears ring. Then the light went out. Darkness crashed over everything thick and absolute. For a moment, I couldn't even tell if my eyes were open. And then I heard it. A step behind me. I ran. My body moved before my mind could catch up, adrenaline burning through the fog of fear. My footsteps pounded against the pavement, echoing wildly in the silence. But there was another sound now, keeping pace with me. Longer strides, slower, but somehow faster at the same time, closing the distance no matter how hard I pushed myself. I turned a corner, at least I thought I did, but the street didn't change. It was the same endless stretch, the same suffocating walls, the same dead air. My lungs burned. My vision blurred. I risked a glance over my shoulder. It was closer. Its shape barely visible in the darkness, but unmistakable, too tall, too thin. Its limbs dragged along the ground, stretching and recoiling as it moved, not running, but gliding, in a way that defied everything I understood about motion. I slammed into something solid and fell back hard onto the pavement. A wall. It hadn't been there a second ago. My heart hammered as I scrambled to my feet, my hands searching for a way around it. But there was none. The street had sealed itself. The footsteps behind me stopped. Silence pressed in again, heavier than before. I didn't want to turn around. Every part of me resisted it, but slowly, unwillingly, I did. It was right there. Closer than it should have been, its featureless face inches from mine. Up close, I could see the surface of it shifting, bulging slightly as if something beneath was trying to form eyes, a mouth, anything human, but couldn't quite manage it. The air around it felt wrong, colder, thicker, like it was displacing something essential. Then it spoke, not in its own voice, in mine. "Hey!" The same tone, the same crack in the middle of the word, perfectly mimicking what I had said earlier, but stretched, distorted, like a recording played through broken speakers. My breath hitched. It leaned closer. "Help me." The words dragged unnaturally, each syllable pulled apart. I felt something brush against my arm, long, damp, and unmistakably not human. My body locked in place, unable to react, unable to even scream. And then everything snapped. The street vanished. Sound rushed back all at once, cars passing, people talking, music spilling out from nearby bars. Bright lights flooded my vision, forcing me to squint. I was standing on a normal street, surrounded by life, by noise, by everything that should have been there all along. I staggered back, gasping, trying to make sense of it. It had to be a hallucination, stress, exhaustion, something explainable, something normal. I almost convinced myself, until I noticed the street lamp beside me flicker. just once. And beneath it, for the briefest moment, I saw a tall, thin shape standing perfectly still, its head tilted slightly, as if it were listening, waiting. The flicker stopped, and the shape was gone. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at the empty space beneath the street lamp, trying to convince myself I hadn't seen anything. People brushed past me, annoyed, unaware. A couple laughed as they crossed the street. A car honked somewhere behind me. Everything was normal again. Too normal, like the city was overcompensating. I went home without looking back. That should have been the end of it. A bad night, a trick of the mind, something to bury under routine and daylight, and for a while it almost worked. I slept, I ate, I went back to work. The memory dulled at the edges, like all nightmares do, but something small had changed, something I couldn't quite name at first. The city felt thinner. Not physically. It still looked the same. But sometimes, when I turned a corner too quickly or caught my reflection in a dark window, there was a delay. A fraction of a second where things didn't line up properly. Shadows stretched just a little too far. Sounds echoed when they shouldn't. And every now and then, a street light would flicker for no reason at all. I started avoiding them. It became a habit without me realizing it. Crossing the street to stay out of their glow, choosing longer routes just to remain in well-lit areas where the light was steady and constant. I told myself it was irrational, but I kept doing it anyway, because deep down, I knew it wasn't the darkness that mattered. It was the flicker. The first time I heard it again, I almost didn't notice. I was in my apartment late, sitting in the quiet with the TV on low, the kind of background noise you don't really listen to. My phone was on the table charging this time, the screen lighting up occasionally with notifications I ignored. Everything was controlled, predictable, safe. Then, between two sounds on the TV, I heard a faint buzz. I froze. It was subtle, barely there, but unmistakable. The same uneven, dying hum of a failing street lamp. I looked up slowly, my eyes scanning the room. The lights were steady. No flickering, no shadows moving where they shouldn't. The buzzing came again. Not from above. From behind me. I turned. The hallway leading to my bedroom was dark. I didn't remember turning the light off, but I must have. The door at the end was slightly open, just enough for the darkness inside to feel deeper than it should have been. The buzzing grew louder. My chest tightened as I stood up, every instinct telling me not to move, not to go closer. But something else pulled at me, a horrible, creeping certainty that I already knew what I'd see, that this wasn't new, that it had followed me. One step. The floor creaked under my weight, the sound too loud in the silence. Another step. The buzzing stuttered, rising and falling in that same irregular rhythm. I reached the hallway. The air was colder there, not just slightly, noticeably, unnaturally cold, like stepping into a refrigerated space. My breath caught as I moved closer to the door, my hand trembling as I pushed it open just a little more. The darkness inside wasn't empty. It shifted. Just for a second, I saw it. A shape standing in the far corner of the room, impossibly tall, its head nearly brushing the ceiling. It didn't move, didn't react, just stood there in the dimness, as if it had always been there. watching. The buzzing cut out abruptly. Silence. I slammed the door shut and stumbled back, my heart racing so hard it hurt. I didn't open it again that night. I didn't sleep either. I stayed on the couch with every light on, the TV blaring, anything to drown out the silence. Morning came eventually. Light poured in through the windows, warm and ordinary. I forced myself to check the bedroom. It was empty. Of course it was. I laughed, but it sounded wrong, thin and strained. I told myself it had been a dream or a trick of exhaustion again, but the cold lingered in that room, faint but real, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there. Something that knew where I lived. Days passed, then weeks. I didn't see it again, not clearly, but the signs were there. Street lights flickering when I passed beneath them, reflections that didn't quite match my movements. And sometimes, late at night, when everything was quiet, I'd hear it. A voice. My voice. Repeating small things I had said during the day, fragments of conversations broken and stretched. See you later? Yeah, I'm fine. Always slightly off, always wrong. I stopped speaking as much after that. At work, at home, it didn't matter. The less it had to copy, the better. Or at least, that's what I hoped. It didn't help. Because one night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I heard something new. Not my voice. Someone else's. Faint. Desperate. Help me. My blood ran cold. It wasn't coming from outside. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside the room. From the corner. The same corner where I had seen it before. I didn't turn my head. I couldn't. My body refused. I lay there, frozen, listening as the voice repeated over and over, each time a little clearer, a little closer. And then I realized something that made it worse. The voice wasn't random. I recognized it. It was mine. But not the way the thing copied me, not distorted, not broken. This was different. This was me, terrified, desperate, pleading, the way I had sounded on that street, the way I had sounded right before it got close. My breath hitched as the whisper came again, right beside my ear now. Help me. And beneath it, quieter, almost hidden, I heard another sound, a faint, uneven buzz, like a street lamp about to go out. The buzzing didn't stop this time. It settled into the room like something alive, crawling into the walls, into the floor, into the air itself. I could feel it in my teeth, a faint vibration that made my jaw ache. The whisper stayed close to my ear, repeating the same words over and over until they stopped sounding like language at all. Help me, help me, help me. I forced myself to move. Slowly, inch by inch, I turned my head toward the corner. Every muscle resisted, as if my body understood something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. The room was dark, but not completely. A thin strip of light from the street outside cut across the floor just enough to outline shapes. The corner wasn't empty anymore. It never had been. The figure stood there again, folded into the space like it didn't quite fit in the room. Its limbs were bent at unnatural angles, too long, too many joints where there shouldn't be any. Its head was tilted sharply, as if studying me, listening the way it had on the street. But this time, I could see more. The surface of its face, if it could be called that, wasn't smooth anymore. It moved, subtle at first, like something pressing from underneath, then clearer, shapes forming and dissolving, the outline of eyes that sank back in before they fully appeared, the hint of a mouth stretching too wide, then flattening again, trying, practicing. The whisper beside my ear stopped, and the thing in the corner spoke. Help me. Closer to my voice than before, cleaner, more controlled. It took a step forward. No, step wasn't the right word. It shifted, unfolding slightly, its body extending with that same wet, creaking sound I remembered. One of its arms dragged along the wall, leaving behind a faint, dark smear that seemed to sink into the surface rather than sit on it. I scrambled back in bed, my back hitting the wall, nowhere left to go. My hands shook so badly I could barely feel them. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out anyway. Well, what do you want? It stopped. The buzzing faltered, just for a moment. Then, softly, almost curiously, it repeated. Want? The word hung in the air, incomplete, like it didn't understand it. Its head tilted further, an impossible angle, and I heard a faint crack from somewhere inside its neck. It took another slow movement forward. Oh, you want? The voice was getting better. Not perfect, not yet, but closer. I shook my head, pressing myself harder against the wall, as if I could disappear into it. No, don't. Don't. This time, it said it immediately. No delay, no distortion. Something cold dropped in my stomach. It was learning faster now. The buzzing grew louder, more aggressive, filling every inch of the room. The strip of light from outside flickered, dimmed, brightened again. I didn't need to look to know what was happening out there. The street lamp. It was sinking with it. The thing raised its head slightly, and for the first time I had the horrible sense that it wasn't just looking at me, it was looking through me. Past me, measuring something. Then it spoke again. Stay. My voice. Perfect. I froze. Not because I wanted to obey, but because something in me responded before I could think. My body locked in place, muscles tightening, as if the word itself had weight, had force. The thing moved closer. Now, I could see its full height, even hunched inside the room. It shouldn't have been able to fit, and yet it did, its form bending in ways that ignored space, ignored logic. One of its arms lifted slowly, joints shifting, extending toward me. Stay, it repeated, softer this time. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. I tried to move, to fight whatever was happening, but my body wouldn't respond properly. My fingers twitched uselessly against the bedsheet. Its hand, or what passed for one, hovered just above my chest. Long, thin, too many segments, bending slightly as if tasting the air. Then it touched me. Cold. Not just cold like ice, but empty, like the absence of heat, of life, of anything real. The moment it made contact, the buzzing surged, exploding into a deafening roar. My vision blurred, the room warping around the edges. And suddenly, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was back on the street. The same endless stretch, the same flickering lights, the same suffocating silence. But this time, I wasn't alone. I stood under a street lamp, my body locked in place, unable to move. I could feel myself breathing, feel my heart racing, but I couldn't control anything. It was like being trapped inside my own body, watching from behind my own eyes. And across from me, I saw myself, not as I was now, but as I had been that first night, walking slowly down the street, cautious, confused, getting closer, reliving it. No, the word came out, but it wasn't under my control. It was part of the memory, part of the loop. I tried to scream, to break free, but nothing changed. I could only watch as my past self approached step by step, falling into the same trap I already knew was there. And then I understood. The thing didn't just copy voices. It didn't just follow people. It replaced them, piece by piece, moment by moment, learning how to be them, becoming them. The closer my past self got, the more I felt something slipping, thoughts fading at the edges, memories blurring like they were being transferred, taken, given. The figure, it, was standing somewhere behind me now. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it, its presence pressed against the back of my mind, patient, focused, waiting for the moment to finish. My past self stopped just a few steps away. I could see my own face, confused, afraid, unaware. My mouth opened to call out just like before. Hey! And this time, something answered from behind me. In my voice. Perfect. Hey! Everything went dark. The buzzing stopped. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full. And somewhere, far away but getting closer, I heard footsteps approaching a flickering light.